Okay, so I guess let's start out as usual. Real name and a real photo to post on the comments on this or any of my linguistics videos. So this is kind of out of order of how I wanted to do upcoming videos because I'm in a different country and than where I normally am. And so I just want to cover something because I am in another country, one that I've lived in before, obviously. This goes to something that's very important. I was talking about learning languages, and there's a lot of talk from other people over the period of time. I've been more concise and specific about, as usual, with the terms than other people, and that really goes to the emic ethic, which are linguistics terms which are used by field linguistics people and also by anthropologists, who obviously would know about what? Society and cultures. And what is important here to take away in layman's terms, I'll give it to you, is the fact that insider outsider. So you want to become an insider and not to appear as an outsider, which is impossible to do because it'll take forever. In some cultures, you're obviously not. If you're white and you're in Black Africa, not gonna fit in, obviously. And the same thing goes with Southeast Asia or other places. Or if you're black and you try to fit into the Inuit tribes in Alaska or northern Canada, it's not going to work for you either. So the point is, you have to try, though, verbally to become, and not just verbally, but through your actions and your mindset, more like the people who are using the language, which is very important because they use the language in a certain way. I would go to this pure war hypothesis, which is being proved. A lot of people want me to give them the latest information or latest research that proves this. Not going to do it as usual. I'm just going to point you in the direction to go find it yourself, or bet me money, and I will. When you come through with the bet money in escrow, I will prove it to you. But anyway, so this is pure war that your language does control how you view the world or worldview, world perspective, lots of different terms for it. Umwelt. You have to know that, and there are a lot of things going on with this. So, yeah, okay. So you want to become an insider as much as possible, and that will mean changing your verbal patterns, changing the way you think, changing your perspective, and changing your actions. Now, a lot of these things may be very antithetical to the culture that you grew up in, and also the language that you're using. For example, North American English, there's a leveling occurring where everybody wants to act as if everybody's equal, as if a neurosurgeon and a 12-year-old boy are on equal ground. They're not. But people want to go around pretending that they are verbally, and they also want to use first names a lot in North America instead of a Mr. or a Miss or a Mrs. or a Sir. All of that is gone. Honorifics are gone, basically. You might hear doctor, you might hear Mr. only in a school setting, but you don't hear it at banks anymore at all, at least I don't, and when I'm there. And that dropping, which they think is okay, is completely seen as an insult in a lot of cultures. In fact, a lot of cultures are based clearly on a hierarchy at all times, and you must know who they are, and you must, with the right you must defer to them. I think the easy examples are for people in Japanese. The verbs show respect. You're never actually talking at level. You're either talking up or down to people. In other places, like in the Philippines, ate, for example, for an older female, you got to put on. And it's not just that. There's almost all the minority languages in this part of the world all have these terms. You got to know how old. That's why they always want to know how old you are, because that's what they know how to address you. It's not that they're so concerned. Well, they are concerned with age. Obviously, they're hung up on it really, but that's why they want to know, because they want to know which term to use. But I'm getting a little too deep into something right now. But the point is, you have got to become an insider. And now, what does this go to? A lot of people are talking about, well, they're getting us caught on the emotional aspects, saying, what's your emotions? No, it's clearly defined in a more specific, precise way. It's becoming an insider versus an outsider. And that means changing how you view social functions and what you consider the family. I told you before, kinship terms are everything in many languages, and what is considered kin, relatives, familials, all of that is very important in a language. Now, what I am going to go with this, and I talked about this in one point before, and another guy has talked about it some about Spanish, and some other, but he talked about it in regards to learning Spanish, and this is very good. This is very clear. Do not, do not, for those of you, especially the dilettantes, I'll talk to the dilettantes now. Do not learn languages for cultures and societies that you don't like. And by cultures and societies that you don't like, I mean actually knowing the cultures. I don't mean going to a restaurant in your own country and thinking that you know what the people are like from whatever, Guatemala, or you think you know what they're like from a certain province in China, or you think that you know what Thais are like in the United States. You have no clue what they're like or what their culture is like. So you have to do research, and what would be the best way? I give you clues here. Read anthropological studies done on the cultures. Read people who have been immersed in the cultures, and I don't mean the apologistic people who will say everything they do is great and everything foreigners do is wrong. I'm talking about a real concise breakdown of it, especially compared to your culture. If you're from the West, Eastern cultures are going to seem really stupid, and that's the scientific term in many ways. And I think it's pretty obvious to know that you'll consider Arabic cultures really, really bizarre. And those, you got to think, if you're learning the language, why are you learning the language? For example, I have got to use certain languages because of the geolocation I'm in. That doesn't mean that I like the culture so much, or that I agree with the thinking, or that I even can abide by some of the facets involved in the society or the culture. I don't. You have got to think about that, especially you people, as I said, are dilettantes who never go to these places. Who are you going to talk to? Well, if you're doing the old Moses maneuver, which is go find restaurants and convenience stores where you can go in and then try to impress them with your lines that you practice, then be aware of actually the culture that you're talking about and where they come from, because you're going to be an outsider from day one. So to become an insider means to know about the culture, and that's what I'm telling you to do. To look at sociological studies, look at field linguists, once again, depends on which language, all right? But anthropologists, in macro languages, larger world languages, it's a different story. Okay, world languages are used. That's one of the things people are fighting English about right now, because there used to be the UK, the British, the received pronunciation versus the North American. Now it's not. Now it's considered an international standard, which is everyone's trying to use a certain type of English that can be understood everywhere, because you've got more people speaking English as a second language in India than you have native U.S. English speakers. And then there's African English, and that retroflexing, the stress patterns are different in Indian English. It makes it impossible to understand for most people. Most of the United States, someone in Texas cannot understand someone in the Hebrides in the UK. They cannot. I don't care if they're both native speakers. That thing of it's my L1, your L1 doesn't work in these diffuse languages like that. There's some problems with Spanish in that regard. In many places, they subtitle things from Peru in Spain because it's not clear. The same thing happens with French. They subtitled Québécois French in France because there's a lot of things that are bizarre. Anyway, little asides there. But the point being, what I want to get across here is the fact that pick a language that you want to learn, but do the research on the culture first. And I don't mean by going eating the food. That's fragmentary. Okay, that's really fragmentary. Do the real research. Go to the real countries. And I don't mean just as a tourist. I mean stay there length of time, because I'm telling you, once again, everybody can go visit the zoo. Very few people can live in the game preserve in Tanzania or Kenya. And that's what those of us who are really out here do. So take heed from those who actually lived in the place for a long time. And that will increase your idea on which language you should learn. Because some people are asking all these other people, what languages should I learn? Ones that you're interested in via the culture. Mainly the culture and the society first. That could be for example, in Italian, you have every reason to learn Italian because the masterpieces and everything in art, painting, sculpture, architecture, civilization, food, you name it. They have it all. I mean, there's no reason. It's the foundation. And then, once again, one of the reasons why here doesn't impress me, there are no world literature things that have come out of here. There's no art that's come out of here. There's no film that's actually come out of here worth anything. There's little to nothing. So that not having an impact on the world means there are fewer things probably to connect with. It means that they're more at a smaller group, meaning that the family is probably a stronger unit, which it is here, and everything's centered around that. You know, and so you're never going to get into that. I don't want to get off into more tangents, but look at it from what I'm saying. Learn the languages that you're interested in the culture first, okay? And that, you know, some people will tell you like, oh, the art, the film, well, those are good reasons, okay? But a place that you would actually want to live in if you're not living there. Now, I'm going to skip my whole talk about the functional because, once again, I only care about functional usage and those levels. I know there's a lot of debate on functional. I've defined that once again, DLI, field linguistics, precise terminology, not the vague crap from the 1,000 would-be guru dilettantes and their faceless, nameless admirers, sycophants. Okay, so I've defined that. But anyway, learn the languages in which you have interest in the culture and the society. And I'm talking about scripted languages right now. I will talk about the non-scripted another time. But obviously, that's the reason. If you don't have to live there because you are working, because it doesn't matter if you like the culture or not, you have got to be functional in the language where you live. I'm talking about all you dilettantes. Take heed, I'm actually talking to dilettantes, giving you information, giving you sage advice here. I'm being your guide on the side as you decide. So take that, and I will get back to other videos in the future about French language resources you didn't know about, and I'm going to do the isolating language thing and talk about that more. Okay, until the next time, okay?